Christianity is Christianity. You accept the Messiah in the Bible the way you want to accept it. You know, if you feel a certain way, you come across a scripture that says don't do it, but you feel that you should be able to do it, you can still be a Christian. So anyway, this is a video that was just recently put up 2 hours ago by Vocab Malone in an attempt to demonize GMS. The title, as you can see, is "Some 1Westers Can't Wait to Ravish Europeans." And that's, he used the word "can't wait to ravish Europeans" because right around here, he says that when you watch his whole video, he says that this is something that GMS teaches, but the other camps are totally against it. But he says that pretty much, I'm putting words in his mouth, I'm merely paraphrasing, they did teach it back in the 90s. So he put up a video with Marshall saying, we're gonna ravish your woman or rape your woman in the kingdom, which is no big deal. Now, when you go into the law, Moses told the warriors of Israel, when they took down the Midianites, he told them to kill all the men, kill all the married women, kill all the boys, and save the little girls for yourself. What do you think Moses meant when he said that? You can read Numbers, the 31st chapter. And that was also considered booty, spoils. Part of the spoils of war are the women. It also gives you another law. When you see a woman that you desire in battle, you're fighting against that particular nation, that you're not supposed to just rape her in the field. You're supposed to take her home, let her mourn a month or 30 days for her parents. Don't deal with her, and cut her hair and pare her nails. And after that 30-day period, you can go in unto her, whether she likes it or not, and she will become your wife. So did we have wives of the other nations? Yes, we did. But we call them concubines. They would be considered secondary wives. The word ayasha is a Hebrew word for wife, which is the masculine way of saying man, which is ayash. Ayash is man in the Hebrew, and ayasha is the feminine form of man, which is a woman. So when we took down nations, we also took the spoil, and part of the spoil with a woman. The only time the Most High said, do not take their woman, is when the Most High commanded us to take the land of Canaan. If you read Deuteronomy chapter 7, the whole chapter, the whole chapter, really. It says, don't deal with any of the women, don't have your sons marry their daughters, vice versa. Just utterly did take them down. Now, in the case of the Midianites, he said, kill the men. I'm going to say it again. Slaughter the men, slaughter the women, the married women, slaughter the boys, and keep alive the girls, the young girls that were not married as of yet. And then when they reach puberty, which could be 11, 12 years old, you can wait until 13, and then you can lie with them and even have children with them. So, this is why Christians can't understand this, because they're caught up in their emotions. And these other camps that can't see it, they can't see it because they don't want to see it, because they are also caught up in their emotions. All of a sudden they don't know Hebrew, oh, you're breaking it down wrong, but they won't go into it. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go into the now with let me come back over here. Let me come back over here. Let me come back over here because Vocab explained it somewhat, and he also explains polite. He says polite, ironically, is being charged with the rape of an assault of a 14-year-old girl, which is one of his women or wives' daughters. And in the evidence, they say that his sperm is on that woman's clothing, whether it's a dress, pantsuit, or whatever. So, here this man calling himself exposing us. He didn't expose us. We told the truth. He asked us a question pursuant to the scriptures. What does the Bible say about it? We told him the truth. We didn't get emotional. But I'm just trying to find a part where I'm gonna have to jump around. Okay, I'm gonna jump around until I get. No, because he had already committed. Right, and that doesn't mean that a man is with another man that's a friend and he sees a daughter and he says, "Oh, I like your daughter, I'm going to rape her." That's not going to happen. What this is talking about, if a man sees a woman, this is not an everyday occurrence. This is not a spectator sport. This is not a sport. You had certain men that saw a woman that couldn't help themselves and took the woman and lay with the woman and forced her to have sex. Now, it says if the woman's engaged, he's to be put to death. And she's to be put to death if she does not scream. If she screams, she was not with it. He was the one that got put to death. If a woman is married, you got an engaged woman and you have a married woman. Some man grabs her, she screams, the man gets put to death. An Israelite man comes across an Israelite woman that is not engaged or married, and he takes her by force, then he has a responsibility to take that woman, and that woman is to be with that man, for life. He can't put that woman away. So you would have to think about it. Would be stupid if you just wanted to commit that act and you really don't like the girl because you're committed. You give the father 50 shekels of silver and you take that woman in, and that's your responsibility now. It didn't. Now, I mentioned the part of the scripture in Deuteronomy 22 where they put to death, the man's put to death if he commits the act of rape with a engaged woman or a married woman. But if the woman's not engaged or married, and if he takes the woman by force, the act of rape, as we use that term today, he is to give the damsel or the girl's father 50 shekels of silver, and that he takes the woman, and I'm saying this a second time, and that he can't put the woman away. So this is what this is what we explain to Polite, and then eventually he saw it, and he confronted the head of Sakari. They were both in the West Coast. I don't know if they were in a hotel or one of their houses or whatever the case may be. It was on a big couch. I believe it was a white couch. And he actually went into the Hebrew, and the head of Sakari said that that's not talking about that. That's an old video. We're talking about 2013 when Polite had rolled up on us with Sonetta. So let's listen. So I just explained it, and then we did videos. There was everybody got all emotional, especially these other former One West camps, and we did videos on it to explain it. But you can't see it if you're caught up in your emotions. You can't turn into a Christian, man. You claiming that you're a Hebrew Israelite and this, that, and the third, and, keep the laws, and then you flake when this law comes out, because you don't, like I said, all of a sudden you don't know the Hebrew. That doesn't really mean that. You sounded like a Christian. Oh, the law is done away with. So let's listen to a little bit more. I'm not going to stay long on this.
We already committed the act, and so in that instance, now it doesn't say that the woman is forced to marry him. And it's not encouraging for it, because in certain sections in the Bible, otherwise you have it as punishment of death for the woman. So this is the way.
If she's engaged to be married, or she is married. If she's not engaged to be married or married, and a man grabs her up, the penalty is 50 shekels to the father, and he is to take that woman in for life.
No, there's no social security to do that. So it's a way, if you do this, you're also responsible. So like common Christ mentions, hey, thank you for bringing that up. This is in the Bible, very careful.
Common Christ, unless she's betrothed, then it's the death penalty, which is right, which is correct. This is a smart Christian, but he should have said betrothed or married.
And also betrothed, then it's a death penalty. If he's married, you got to be married to, then it's death penalty. So this is an unmarried virgin. And just so you know, this is GMS, not hardly any of the good results in kids. But it was interesting when this book gets shown, it does go back to this distance himself.
Let me go to the part where he goes to, this is called a discussion, by the way. Let me go to King Masha. And this was it's still controversial. Like I said, you can't get into understand these scriptures if you are emotional. Okay, it's right here.
Masha was designated as being King David reincarnated. And I think what he says here in this clip is there's one thing I agree with. Listen to Masha, one of the 7 heads of the Lord. But there's one thing why you forgot. There's one thing why you forgot there's payback. We're going to put forth. So slavery is not wrong. It's just who's doing it. You see what I'm saying? That's kind of the implication. Take your women. What's it going to do? So
Yeah, so I mentioned Numbers 31. Read Numbers 31 nice and slow. I'm speaking nice and slow. So you won't say, well, I didn't hear that, mumbled on that word. I'm speaking nice and slow, and I'm saying things 2 and 3 times so you can get it. You know, I continue to turn the, let's take things nice and slow. So King Marshall making that statement, is that a factual statement according to the scriptures? Yes. What they did to us, we're going to do to them. What they did to our women, we're going to do to their women. And let me give you a scripture here. Let's see. Go here to, you know what? We're going to go to Zechariah 14. Okay, Zechariah 14:1. The Most High will battle Jerusalem's foes. This is also in Ezekiel 38. It says 39, Mark 13, Revelation 20 to 22. Yeah, right. Revelation 20, verse 7. It speaks about Gog and Magog. It speaks about the, although it doesn't mention the valley of Jehoshaphat, it speaks about that same thing, the valley of Jehoshaphat. So let's read this. It says, behold, the day of the Lord cometh. What is the day of the Lord? That's the time of Jacob's trouble. That's when the destruction comes. That's when the deliverance comes. Cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem. That's also in Revelation. Matter of fact, let's get that. Let's go ahead and get that. Let me slide this over here. Let me do this. Let's go to Revelation. Because it just gave me the reference in Revelation 20. And verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan, and the word Satan simply means adversary, shall be loose out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the 4 quarters of the earth. What does it mean by the 4 quarters of the earth? It means, matter of fact, let me do this. Let me do this. You got to take things nice and slow. If you're caught up with with your and your emotions, you are not going to get this. Okay. Let's see what Cambridge says. They're not telling me that because I wanted the 4/4. Let's try another translation. Matter of fact, let me do this. Let me take the word quarters. You saw the Super Bowl, you had 4/4, right? You're going to watch the NBA playoffs and the NBA championships, you have 4/4. Okay, do this. Let's see how many times the word quarters pop up. Okay, it's right here, Barnes and Notes on the Bible. Right here, which are in the 4/4 of the earth, literally corners of the earth, as if the earth were one extended square plane. Earth is usually spoken of they're doing a lot of talking. It means the whole earth. Excuse me. Got a piece of clove stuck down my throat. Excuse me. And they're not telling me, but it means that the whole planet Earth. So this prophecy can only be fulfilled in this time. So let's come back over here. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. Our women will be ravished. And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord Yahawah go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. Why is he going against those nations? Because they're coming against Israel. That's the time of Jacob's trouble. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered. Michael shall stand up. And it goes into his feet shall stand in that day upon the mount. This just represents when the Lord comes, it's going to overshadow everything. Then eventually, as you go down, I'm not going to read this whole chapter. In the 14th verse, 12th verse. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. But you go back to the first couple of verses. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Now, the first time I ever heard this, long before I came into the school at 1 West, I heard this from a so-called white man by the name of Harold Lindsay. He did a movie, which were in the theaters. I was a teenager at that time. Me and a friend of mine, we were always into the scriptures. We got together to see the movie. And I remember when he quoted this scripture and he said that can only be talking about nuclear war. You can watch the video yourself. The whole movie, it's on YouTube. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see what the commentators say. So my point with Zechariah 14 is the first couple of verses where it said they're gonna ravish our women. Whatever they did to us, we're gonna do to them. We're gonna do to their women. We're gonna do to their children. Thou shalt have a wife and another man shall lie with her. But we're not going to lie with your wives unless you're put to death. Zechariah 14 and 12. Let's see what Cambridge has to say. Their flesh, his flesh, i.e., the flesh of each one of them, and so his eyes, his tongue, though to show that the plague is at once individual and universal, it is at the end of the verse in their mouths, or in their mouth, while they stand upon their feet. There's a famous scene in the Terminator series. I think it's the second installment where Sarah Connor's standing by a fence with a nurse. Looks like a nurse's outfit on, and she's looking at kids playing, and she sees a smoke of fire come towards her, and she had a dream, and she saw the flesh, the eyes, the mouth, the hair melting off of her body, and there's a skeleton of her holding the fence. And she woke up from the dream, and he's standing upon the feet. The plague comes upon them in a moment, 1 hour, Revelation 9, as they stand in serried ranks before the holy city. Appalling, horrible picture, standing on their feet, yet their flesh moldering away as in a graveyard, their sightless balls decaying in their holes, the tongue putrefying in their mouths, a disgust to themselves and to others, whatever that means. Poussé, I guess that's an author. But they're not going to say it's a nuclear destruction. The destruction of hostile nations, the deliverance and prosperity of Jerusalem, terrible plague sent upon those who fought against her, Zechariah 14 and 12. It starts at 1, and by a panic which shall cause them to slay one another. They're not going to say anything about nuclear destruction, but Harold Lindsay did. And it made all the sense in the world. So now let's come back over here. Let's deal with the word ravished. Is this verse 2? Yes, it is. Ravished. The word there in the Hebrew is shagal. a primitive root. To violate, ravish. To violate, ravish. To be ravished, to be ravished. That's what you do to the spoil. Part of the spoil for the woman. Read Numbers chapter 31. As to why Moses said what he said. Kill all the women that are married, kill all the men, kill all the boys, but take the girls for yourselves. So what do you think they did with those girls? They were dealing with them, and they were having babies with them, and the seed that what came out of that union are more Israelite people, boys and girls. You're an Israelite based upon your father. It doesn't matter what your mother was or is. So King Marshall made the statement, you did that to our woman, we're going to do that to your woman. Deuteronomy 28:30, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Now, we're not going to do that. We're not going to lay with a woman while the man's still alive. But if the man should happen to die, or if he has daughters, we can deal with them. Isaiah 13:16. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces. This is talking about the same scenario as Zechariah 14. Daniel 12. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their what? And their wives ravaged, only when the man is put to death. Only when the husband is put to death. You cannot lay with another man's wife, even though it's of another nation. Oh, well, he's of another, that Edomite, I lay with his wife because they're of another nation. No, you're still breaking the law. You can't just go out and just kill an Edomite. That's against the law of the Most High. The only justification in you killing somebody is in the midst of war, or defending yourself, or him breaking the law, Israelite breaking the law unto death. It says Jeremiah 3:2, lift up thine eyes unto the high places and see where thou hast not been lain or ravished. Like ravish also can mean rape. Like there's a book, I believe it's a book called The Rape of Justice. You know, when you take over another country, they also call it raping that country. Because what do? You take the spoil from that country. It said, lift up thine eyes unto the high places and see where thou hast not been laid, where thou hast not been taken advantage of, raped, ripped off with. And the ways have, and in the ways has thou set for themselves as the Arabian in the wilderness, and thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness. So they raped the land. They dirtied the land with their wickedness, with their sins. And then we come back to Zechariah 14:12. So payback is a bitch. That's why you're going into captivity. That's why your women are going to be ravished. Your daughters are going to be ravished. And we're going to have the pick of the litter, so to speak. We're going to say, we want, the concubines. Okay, I want that one over there. I want those three over there. And then you're going to say, are they sisters? Yeah, they're sisters. Okay, what not? Scratch that. Let's go to this woman over here, this young little girl that's look like she's about 11 years old. And that's how it's going to be. That's what they did in the Arab world. Among the Africans, they do that today. Among the Arabs, they do that today. See, these guys, Vocab and these American Christians, They're not from the ancient world. When Abraham, when he had a Sarah couldn't bear children, she had her handmaid. The same goes with Jacob's two women, Rachel and Leah. They had their handmaids, and the handmaids didn't have any say to the matter. Oh, I don't like him. His nose is too big. His ears are too big. And back then, Leah and Rachel would tell their maid servants, their what do you call it? Their certain maid servants go and lay with my husband, and the children that were born were the children of Leah or Rachel. There's a movie out called The Handmaid's Tale. It came out in the 90s. They made a remake of it. I think it's a series now, but back in the 90s, and I saw that movie from start to finish. And when they would capture these women, they would lay with them because their wives couldn't bear children. And then they would open up the scriptures. They would go to Genesis. And one of the major stars in the movie was Robert Duvall. You should watch that movie. So what did they do? They followed the ancient ways. So our kingdom is going to be likened unto an ancient kingdom, but the difference is we're going to have this new technology, spiritual power. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.